Not like Giffords Jeopardy music in the background. It's as good as it. Yeah, that's a quick visual. Can't hurt. So not with delay, we can call a special meeting Monday, January 30th, 2023. Forest Savage Township Board of Supervisors in session. If everyone would join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a total of 6 folks that expressed interest formally to be appointed to the vacancy left by Doug Gifford. So we're going to begin with Carl. You're up first, and Ken, Mike, Joe, Tom, in that order.
Right here is good.
Yep, thunder away.
Okay.
Yeah, this would be the hot seat.
It's hoping they're. Oh, you want me in the hot seat?
Yeah. Then you're on camera.
I'm good. Seat is better, actually. First of all, thank you for having me here tonight and the opportunity to tell you a little bit about myself. We know you guys, Kevin, I'm not familiar with you. We haven't worked together before, but just to give you, you did get my resume and my cover letter, so without regurgitating everything in there, just give you a little bit of background on myself. I'm 57. I've been a resident for 26 plus years. And I'm here tonight, obviously, because I'm to talk to you about the appointment Bill Doug's on the spot. I've been a volunteer in the township and other organizations like Harleysville Baseball for the past 18 years. I started at the Planning Commission in 2004. And I honestly think, with the exception of the Park Board and Zoning Hearing Board, I think I've served on every board that's already in this township.
Seen them all. Seen them all.
I've seen it all. So, I mean, I like to think that having the opportunity to do that has let me be familiar with how the township operates, with most, if not all, the township staff who I've been work with. So honestly, I see this opportunity as, for me, given my age, probably a once in a lifetime opportunity, and has not something I've always thought about doing. It's up until the last couple of years, there hasn't really been a lot of opportunity to do it. There's a reason why you guys all been here for so long, because you do a great job. And as much as I'm sorry to see Doug go, it's an opportunity for me. And I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to want to continue in the voluntary capacity. I kind of look at supervisor position as the natural progression for me given that I've done other things, most of the other boards, I'm currently the chairman of the sewer authority. I know how to run meetings, I'm familiar with budgeting, that type of thing. But honestly, the biggest reason that I'm here at all is because I love living in this township, and I'm not going anywhere. I don't have any other political aspirations. I just want to continue to do what I'm doing. And hopefully this step for me is the next level, and I do appreciate you considering me. I am a civil engineer, as you probably know. When I talk to people in other townships, other people who are in charge, and other engineers, my fellow engineers, Lower Stafford has an unbelievably great reputation, and even in Bucks County, people know over here. So what I want to do is I'd like to be part of the supervisory team to help make township even better than it has been, if that's even possible. And that's why I'm really here. Like I said, I could go through all these things. I don't think I need to do that. It obviously, you know why I'm here. And I'm certainly happy to answer any questions you may have about my volunteer service or any other type of information you want people to hear from me tonight. So other than that, I think you have a lot of other good candidates to speak to tonight, so I'll try to keep it brief.
Carl, question for you.
Yeah.
You've been Harleysville Baseball, Sewer Authority, you've been in planning commission meetings. Obviously, one of the things that we have to do as a board is balance, multiple interests. There's often not a very clear cut answer to that. And what have you seen in your past as a good way to, you get a room full of people that are upset about something. What's your take on how to approach that best to come out to a good outcome for everyone?
Well, I guess it depends on what the topic is. I don't feel like I'm more of a de-escalator than an escalator. I'd rather try to talk things through. I feel that my profession has given me the opportunity to be a good communicator. I'm certainly happy to speak to anybody I see in the street, phone call, email. But as far as the meeting goes, we don't get a lot of visitors at many of the boards and authorities I'm on. So I don't have a lot of experience dealing with a hostile crowd, but I've been on the other side of the table as far as the hostile crowd goes. They exist, and like I said, I feel like the measured approach, thoughtful approach, helps to de-escalate the situation.
Thank you, everybody, for your interest in serving. Really appreciate it and the work that you currently do with the township. I did put together a few questions. Just wanted to throw a few at you.
Sure.
It's going to be the same for everybody here. But what do you see as the township supervisor's primary role?
Primary role, I would say making sure that quality of life and standard of life in the township for people to live here and raise a family here is an important role. Obviously, the ability to work with the budget, make sure that it's being kept in track, on track, because people are worried about their taxes going up. It's an obvious concern. I also believe in responsible development. I am a civil engineer. I do land development, so I've had the good fortune to be able to see what good and bad development is from both sides. And I feel that a supervisor should be a steward for responsible development.
What kind of work interests you least as a township supervisor?
The least 20 meetings.
You've got a friend.
Which I've been to enough as part of the other authorities.
Already going to get
Sewer authority has a 7 a.m. meeting, so I get it. But I mean, that's part of the that's part of what you sign on for. You do this. If you want to do it, you wouldn't be part of it.
I'm going to ask one more and then give it to my colleagues.
Please do.
If
You may have just won his vote too, by the way.
receive a $1 million grant to use for lower salary, any way you want it, what would you do with it? Why?
Can't say give it to the sewer.
No.
We should be giving people $1 million grants, it's their funding balance.
I think one of the things that makes Lower Southborough great, among many things, is our park system and our open space. I know I believe we have the most amount of open space in the entire county, not we're up near the top. And that has to go hand in hand with responsible development. I don't believe in putting the kibosh on it, but we also have to be cognizant of our open space and continue to look to acquire it if possible. Now, I mean, I don't know if that would be the only thing, but that's my general idea.
Thank you. I'm gonna give them questions.
Oh, you're okay with the time? There's not a whole lot of time commitment involved. I mean, it's reading through all the paperwork and all that kind of stuff, and reviewing all the information comes here, but you're good with the morning meeting, right? Yeah, I'm used to that. Yeah, we'll be one extra one. Well, two, 3 extra a month, you say is sort of.
No, understood. No, that's, again, that comes part and parcel with the job, so to speak.
It's political, so to the extent you're appointed, you'll run and hopefully get on in April and have to run another 6-year term. You have the pleasure of running the community, so to speak. So it's, there's a certain amount of commitment that goes with the election process. It's all this meant, like I said, it's a part of this, which is a little different than what there is concern on now. Of course, you're appointed. So that becomes an aspect. Small aspect of security. It's right part of it. So you're good with all that?
I am. I know there's a side of this that's political. I totally get it. You've all had to run and be elected, and I'm not any different. I don't look at a supervisor's position as political, as if you're talking about a president or even a state rep. I think our job is to make people's lives in this township better, and however we need to do that. And I don't think politics comes into that. I really don't.
And at the local level, I would agree more. If folks want to know that, locally they can come into their township, right? If they've got an issue or a challenge that they can get, either guidance with or help with, and that's really what it is.
Exactly, and there is no color when it comes to that. I'm here to help if I can.
So he's not worried.
It's perfect. As an official, either elected or appointed, you'll have a duty to represent the interests of your constituents. How do you plan on involving residents in your decision-making process as supervisor?
It's a good question. It's not something I particularly thought of. I mean, I don't know if supervisors typically run town hall type of things, but here's what I will tell you, that my involvement in the township has given me a pretty good township network. I know a lot of people know me, and maybe that's good or not, but I'm able to discuss things with a lot of different people, more so than I think the average person would, just because of my quote network. And a lot of that is just friends. So I don't think there's anything I would do formally. But like I said, I think word of mouth is a great way to do it. And since I do have a pretty decent network, I feel like that's the best way I can do it.
And I also appreciate you being the first to go give this question. I'm sure everybody else can have the same as well.
I gotta say one thing. Do you have any, we've all served for various times, Keith, the elder statesman at this point. Any questions for us on the position while you have all 4 of us here coming into it?
I don't think so. I think I've gleaned enough knowledge over the years to, I'm certainly not going to tell you that if I'm appointed, I'm going to be able to jump in and know everything. I'm not. It's not. It's a learning process. And every board and authority I've served on has been the same thing. There's a learning curve involved. And sometimes I think it's better sometimes just to shut up and listen than it is to try to be forceful. So that's kind of my philosophy.
The other piece, just to give you a full disclosure, I mean, we serve voluntarily on a few other boards and the like. So there is that aspect. One is the elected official part of it, but then the other, there's the police committee, the recreational authority.
Sure.
There's other pieces of this that, you know, to the extent you're able to assist or be involved with, it's always welcome.
I appreciate that, and that's what I would continue to do. Whether this works out or doesn't, I'm not going anywhere. So we're happy to have.
Very good, Carl.
Very good. I have one more question. I think you answered most of these. Already. Said, our township allocates funds to certain social service organizations that are unaffiliated with the township, such as the community center, library, the fire company. Neighboring townships recently reduced some of their level of support for these services. How do you feel about allocating township funds to these type of organizations?
I agree. I agree. And to me, that's part and parcel of making this a great place to live. We need this service. We want to have people want to continue to come here. They're going to want to know those are the type of things that service they can rely on. So I believe we're part of it.
All right, so we're gonna probably gather after this meeting, in executive session, I would imagine, do some brainstorming. Sure. But we appreciate you coming in. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for letting me.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your round.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Carl.
Thanks again.
I put it up. Let's go.
And then one thing I'll tell everybody, regardless of the outcome, pursuing it for the interest in volunteering.
I absolutely am. And believe me, I think I'm appointed, I think my earliest reappointment is 2025, so I'm not there yet. Thank you.
Carl, we never met, but nice job. I'm Ken Kress. Ken, you know what? We met over emails plenty of times because the field stuff and that stuff.
So, wait, Chris had to run to his car.
All right.
Yeah.
No problem. Take a breath.
It's not as far as I could probably do. That far.
Here.
And you were?
Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to apply for the vacancy. I think it's a tribute to our community to be amongst so many candidates. I do have some comments prepared. Share them, and I get good answers to your questions. Lower South Township is a place I've called. I grew up in town around the parks and even at a young age, and my father who served. I participated in many activities, including Scouts, baseball, soccer, and swim teams. Witnessed so many great years like my dad. I was proud to pick all over Northburg, Jeff Park, out there, come to a couple of examples. So I'm selfish at the time. I knew they were doing what I was doing. I didn't realize the value, importance of what a great community of the I got married to my wife Becky. We chose to raise our two children, Jenna and Owen. And I continue to enjoy the community. There's no question. There's great trail parks and schools, and also many important. I'm interested in this position because I enjoy giving back to the community, and it's a great way to do so. I believe I have a very strong set of qualities that align very well with this opportunity. My life experiences with volunteer service and reflected in my resume has put me in touch with many, and I believe I'm very approachable and accessible as well. My experience in the Supervisor Community Center since 2003 and the Township Park Board since 2002 have made me aware that there are additional opportunities for community to grow even stronger. There are a couple instances I want to highlight. One of them is
I was spearheaded and identified the major capital projects at the President Community Center to expand and improve on the tools and the equipment. Work closely with on the budget and the whole project to see it through to completion. That's one project that I was really involved with. And then during my time on the Council Park Board, we were able to be part of continued growth and improvements affecting portions of the trail, opening new parks, and sort of a new memorial program for all these projects involved together. And then and I think I've proven yeah, I'm done. So why now? Why did I come up and decide that this was the right time? I love this community and the strong foundation it's built on. I see continued need for maintaining a strong foundation, all while adding some new sustainability. I witnessed this happening as I serve in the park. I'd really like to help and support the township supervisor and administration to continue these efforts. Our children have identified their areas of education. I think we lost time now. So they both drive and are beginning to fledge the nest. So this is opening to my schedule as well. I'm forever grateful for the opportunities of this township. I really get back, I'll continue to get back in the area I'm already serving. I think it would be another great opportunity for me to share and learn. I definitely don't know everything that was expected of the town supervisor, who's not that running people come with understand that. But what it is,
I'm going to ask you a very similar question I asked Carl, because it is one of the things we as a supervisor do. We have to balance a lot of, conflicting potential interests to come up with what's the best interest of the community, which may not always be in the best interest of a few of the people in the audience, but education and other things are very important to help along with that. So what's been your experience when you've been in a variety of different leadership roles, whether it's on church council, with the community center, or different things? How have you seen best handle that?
the best way to handle this. I mean, my answer is very similar to Carl's. Yes, but it isn't the word that I personally chosen, but it is really what my strategy is to try to hear everybody out, hear what their story is, and then make the best decision for the community. It's not about the best decision for this kind of crowd. The best decision for that individual that might be excited at the moment is what's best for the community. And fall back to a time on the park. It wasn't one representative from NRA and literally reading out legal jargon why we should be able to carry a weapon for our park system. Our park rules are very nice. And they weren't constitutional. And we had to de-escalate that. And with people in the room that struggled with the agreement, and we had to de-escalate that kind of paperwork, the conversation. So we called her because we didn't know what's called now. So yeah, it's good. Thank you.
And thank you for your willingness to step up to the plate, as everybody here has. Well, I'm going to ask you some of these questions. You did answer quite a few of those well. Did you receive the $1 million grant used for Lower Southern any way you wanted? What would you do with it? One.
I would find the biggest piece of open space that I could get it. Fine. Because that's one thing that's not produced in space. And while $1 million would go very, very far, I think it's the family, one of the key foundations people in Lower South. All the parks, all the trails, all the options for activity so close to home. And I would either invest in improving some of the lands that we already have, lands aren't available for that issue.
All Our township allocates funds to certain social service organizations unaffiliated with our township, such as the community center, the library, and the fire company. Neighboring townships recently reduced some of their levels of support for these services. How do you feel about allocating township funds to these type of organizations?
I think it's 100% awesome. This township is so supportive of the organizations that are trying so hard to do great work.
You generally agree to try to support volunteer organizations, the IVs, so we don't end up having to take those responsibilities on as a township government. It's the right way to go.
Yeah,
That's what comes in. So,
Yeah, it has to improve some volunteers. And I mean, while they are in it, and I think it a little bit of volunteers.
Kind of work interests you least as a township supervisor?
I really don't, I don't really know. I don't know how to answer that.
The new guys had to clean the bathroom.
Well, if that were the case, that would be.
You guys have a candy from the Memorial Day parade. That's actually. It's always enjoyable.
So kind of like I mentioned to our, it's one thing to be board of supervisor, but then there are other groups that will get involved. So the time commitment, while it's pretty reasonable at times, a little more at other times, but finding time to be on one or two of those other boards committees is also something we encourage. So not just one or two, carrying that. That's another commitment. Sometimes unspoken, right? Right. But being a board supervisor, right? You deal with the finances of the township, the administration of the township. Now, Joe's great, and I have nothing but accolades to say. But when the final decisions get made, this is the place where it gets.
I would say I want to be fully involved and participate as much as possible.
And I think you covered most of my questions. I'm grateful to all those who showed interest in filling this vacancy. Again, each candidate that applied provided us with many reasons they feel that they would be the best fit for this position. What distinguishes you from the other candidates?
Well, I think it's my community. I mean, I've been out there in many community organizations, whether it's scouts, whether it's the church, whether it's or in my heart. Trying to make sure that we're successful.
Okay, thanks, Cal.
Thanks for coming, Owen. Yeah, thanks for having me.
He's good. Yeah. Well done. All right, so next up. Michael.
Pronounce it again, Mike.
We pronounce it Barnett.
Barnett, very good.
Richard Barnett.
That has had a little bit smooth feel at the back end of it, right?
Oh, it's just funny.
I love you.
All right, so tell us a little bit about yourself. Why you want to be a supervisor?
Just, been in Harleysville for about 15 years now, yes. And, look here. I like to understand what it is.
Couple of questions. One of the ones I've been asked, we sort of try to keep the same ones, keep it flips. in one of your experiences in the past, oftentimes we can have controversial issues where, everybody has a point, but there's a decision that needs to be made. And it's incumbent upon us sometimes to make the final decision that may not be as popular for some, but we think is right for the long-term decision of the community or whatever it might be. What have you done in the past to help both educate a crowd about that and come to a conclusion on a decision?
Well, and I say going out of May school, varsity martial arts, so I've dealt with some pretty strong personalities. With people who can, back it up. So, being able to kind of be that mediator, really talk to everybody, no matter what it is. I can understand that, there's always going to say the right side, the left side of truth, right? And I think that's kind of the job of the board is to figure out what's really got to happen. Everyone wants, but there's always compromise.
Right.
And it really go sit down in the middle and understand that you can't get it your way. And it's gonna be that compromise. And really that situation, understand why you want to listen to each other. That's really what it is. Once somebody listens to each other, I think everyone kind of understands that and everyone. That's kind of ready to bring everyone in, listen to everything. Making the city, maybe educating myself a little more than they had to really understand what's involved and ask where they were. So that's right.
Do you think, Steve, from your viewpoint, one of the things that may have motivated you, what do you think is one of the biggest challenges or most important issues facing us in the local community?
Well, I mean, that's what I was going to ask you guys. Like, what do you guys see the next 6 months being the biggest thing? I think the biggest issue that I hear about is really just the population. And the growth of population. How do you get the roads to work? People don't think about that. Sewers, it all, you have to look at everything. And I'd say that's probably what I would think with all these larger farms. I'm certain that it's got to be farming forever. They're going to start selling off 100 acres, 80 acres, risk it about that. I think that's the biggest concern. Especially for a long time. School, it's just, look at the whole thing. I think this is kind of, what I think is, the biggest issue. I don't care why. I think there's a whole, I think the way Harlequin's going right now. I think, looking at all the pieces, instead of you're solving one problem, you how we affect all these other things. Well, before that's what we're proposing, looking at it as a whole. But because like the same last question, it's going to be people who aren't going to be happy no matter what we do. But the police have been in the long run, they can see we've done it for the best interest of Harleysville and the people at the same time.
Michael, again, thank you. Well, thank you for coming out here. We really appreciate that. If you received $1 million grant to use for Lower Southern, any way you want it, what would you do with it? Why?
I'd say that the last gentleman answered their question pretty well. I think they go through skipping spaces, but I don't know what kind of issues there are. I work a lot with these people. I don't see many around here. I think there may be other issues that Harleysville will do something for that $1 million to be spent. But I don't think we can go wrong with a library, something like that closer, something like that, something that could families basically. I think the majority of people that are here, they're families. Anything that could really help that. I think we really benefit from $1 million, to volunteer to make this out.
And kind of leading to another question I was asking as well about our township allocates funds to certain social service organizations that are unaffiliated with the township, such as community center, the library, the fire company. Some townships have recently reduced their level of support for these services. How do you feel about allocating township funds to these type of organizations?
I think it's great.
Anything interests you the least about being a township supervisor?
I think that just getting involved itself is great, but I'm sure when election time comes, you guys, that's gonna be a little stressful program.
Most of the guys that are running or gals that are running.
Yeah, I think that would be the thing that I would be looking for. Would be that.
I can agree with that 100%.
Speak, I think maybe for the whole, we don't get into this to go to election. I mean, there's a host of other reasons not to stand there.
But that's why we got
Yeah.
it.
Police fund. It puts us out in front of the folks, so there's an opportunity then to kind of hear directly or but beyond that, it's
I've done the door knocking, that's what I'm about. It's getting, and that's what I'm hoping to do is give a voice. It's some transparency, but people can really understand. Because I think a lot of the community, they don't really understand. It's all, so I think that's not, but I. They say all the time. Understand that. Yeah. Get your account, yes, give us advisors that are making decisions, but we're doing it based on what we feel is best. But I'm okay. For sure.
Time commitment's okay? You have time in the morning and nice to
I'm
get to our
very
meeting.
flexible
So,
schedule, yeah.
okay.
We get you call.
It's under fire, it's good, downtime. Once again, no, I'm grateful for everybody who showed interest in filling this vacancy. Each candidate that has applied to us has many reasons why they feel they're the best fit in this position. What distinguishes me from other candidates?
I just think it's just my passion. Very passionate, and I understand, my years of martial arts training, very confident. Make those decisions. Still behind, I understand that, parts. First income plan. That's once that decision made, it's discussed that if that's the way it has to be, it has to be the best. It's that business mentality. I watch every dollar. I watch every dollar. I watch every that's the way that I think about my personal for my whole life. That's all. That I've been. It's having that mentality to go and bring that aspect to the town. We understand that it's not, necessarily the lowest bid. It's the lowest bid that's going to get the best deal. And we have looked past this like the different way. I've been constantly behind it.
If, we have 6 candidates, one of them did, drop out severely, it's grateful to have all 6 of them. Only one will be able to get the appointment. Would you be interested in serving elsewhere if you didn't have to be the one that's chosen here to serve in another capacity? Yeah.
So if this doesn't work out for me, absolutely, I'm looking to involve in any way that I can.
Great.
To help out with the town and get involved.
Great.
We welcome all folks.
Everybody get openings all the time. So, and my last question then would be, obviously it's, as a supervisor, we have to make decisions, but we're pretty heavily constrained by the rules and regulations imposed upon us by the state legislature, second class staffing code and all. What's your understanding of the limits of what we do as supervisors?
It's not much. I mean, I sort of educated myself a little bit, but I'm research out. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that I can have to, really educate myself on how to consider.
Okay, good.
Really interesting.
Right.
That's my thinking of work analysis paralysis. That's how I like to do things. That's how I make the decision.
Right.
I'm enjoying doing it. So,
Good. Good. The next challenge you might. Any questions for us?
Like I said earlier, it's just really, what is going to be the biggest thing that you guys do in the next 6 months? That's the township's dealing with, with so much change. Is going to be the biggest issue that we're going to have to deal with.
I think, at least from my standpoint, when we talk about the growth issues, we have a number of things that we have in place with regards to traffic signals, things of that nature, which some of them talk about. I still think the biggest challenge we have, just to tackle it a little bit with merger of our ambulance with TRAP and forming Freedom Valley Ambulance, but we have a number of community services that are provided by a more fragile network than they ever have been before, whether it's the ambulance service or volunteer fire company, or, you know, the community center who provides the pool and the fields for it. These have all been run for years to our benefit by volunteers and really on as efficiently as they can because they are through volunteers. And, you know, I think we still have to continue to look at every possible avenue in which to support them so that they do not become truly township function because the costs skyrocket, the rules and regulations required to function underneath those are significantly higher in that realm. So the regionalization we just worked on with the ambulance and supporting that, we're working with our colleagues in Limerick Township and about 7 or 10 other municipalities to really make that ambulance corps a go rather than having all these individualized ones is one of the ways I think that, you know, post-COVID, we really have some challenges that could really blow up the budget unless we handle it appropriately that way. So from my standpoint, that's focused on.
Facilitating to the extent that we're able, I think is something that's common thread.
Yeah.
Sometimes easier said than done. That's where this is headed. And it's true. I mean, there's, you know, you can talk about the growth and we have the trails committee, we have obviously open space, but there's, you know, so there's room, traffic signals, we invested heavily in that. We partnered with grants that we get, so we do the local match. So there's, you know, there's a host of other elements, but the one that comes to mind is when you start to lose volunteer organization, that becomes very expensive.
Agree with my colleagues on those things as well, being what's in front of us right now that we see. You know, but being a supervisor, it's, as we said, it's time commitment, and it's something that, for me, I'm always curious to hear what people have to say. We have surveys out. I think it's really based what our primary things with here are, will be some of the feedback on that as well. And, you know, obviously we have new developments coming in, that want to get presented to us, make sure we better look it through, listen to residents. And again, I think with the especially in regards to the ambulance service, you know, we have to make sure that other townships stay on board. It was funding for the library, you know, something that we would have to, you know, take the bill for as well. It's something that we should discuss. So there might be things I think that are on there.
For sure, some challenges. Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Michael.
coming in. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. I already been to the car once.
All right.
Mr. Herwanko.
Mr. Herwanko.
Hello, Joe.
Good evening, everyone.
Good to see you again.
Long time no see.
All right, well, welcome. 4 of 6, as Chris said. So you want to talk a little bit about your background and why you want to be a supervisor?
Well, I've been in the area or township quite a while. I've been involved in the fire company for 40+ years. Held numerous positions there all the way up to chief for 4 or 5 years. Currently on the board of directors, daytime route driver, fully active. Been on the planning commission for 20 years. EOC, I'm not sure about that, but more than 20 years. I was
So you lost your fingers and toes, not fingers and toes.
I was pretty long with that whole township building, we had to do things with the run generators. Yeah,
So why do you want to be a supervisor?
well, to use all those experiences and forward that come with the township, make good decisions. I know a lot of the government pretty good. Like to see the future be bright. Great, yeah.
So one of the things, in worked with the volunteer fire service for a long time. And I think sometimes your board meetings can be more controversial than our board meetings. So
You're right on that.
yeah, you dealt with strong personalities. So what's your way as a leader to help both educate and diffuse situations so you can reach a common goal and common answer together?
Big thing, being honest. There's no sense, you know, we ask everybody to just be honest, hear everybody's point of view. And just try and work with everybody and explain to everybody, you know, no matter what decision you make or whatever you do, somebody will be upset. So try and make the best decision for everybody that you can.
Totally understanding, right?
If you received $1 million grant to use for Lower Stafford any way you wanted, what would you do with it? Why? Before you answer that, before you answer that, thank you. I forgot to say that. I was going to say thank you. Thank you for your willingness to be here.
I'm telling you, can't go to the fire first.
The bike trail, the interconnections, all that, but the main one is out of all the somebody down bike between, up by, Merck Credit Union.
Yep.
Connecting with the driveway. That's a safety issue there, because that forces everybody that wants to travel the other way out around the guardrail in 45-mile traffic.
Yep.
And I think that property around 850.
Yes, it is.
That just.
That would be very nice.
And you covered some of my questions I have here. The other one I had is our township allocates funds to certain social service organizations that are unaffiliated with the township, such as the community center, the library, and fire company. Neighboring townships have recently reduced levels of support for these services. How do you feel about allocating township funds to these types of organizations?
Well, the fire companies definitely go to public.
No,
No, they're all very,
Agreed.
they're all, you know, very, they public and going forward, they're gonna, especially the fire company, is gonna need more money from type of people. Right now, we're lucky, because we're getting by now, but all it takes is a few people to have a change in life, change in whatever, and we're able. So it's walking and make stuff.
Kind of work interests you, at least as a township supervisor?
I really can't think of myself. I see all the stuff. There's good times, bad times. I know that time here with the supervisor stuff like that. That wasn't very nice, but you know, worked out well. I really don't think I don't have it.
So the time commitment we talked to each person about, but your kids are grown now, so the time commitment's not.
Right, that's one reason. I wanted to do this for years, but I held on for that because they were involved in all the sports and there's still of them, so we could own constantly. So once they have done, they get through college. Then I got plenty of time.
I know that once you're an empty nester, it does get a little boring, you know.
That would be totally.
No. So, yeah, so being a township supervisor, is one aspect of it, as you know, so association things. So it's nice that if you have the time, support those two. Just being on the board is one aspect, but being involved in some other things also.
And the other thing I work in, I used to work in Arlesville nationwide, so. Yeah.
One more question. Sorry.
There you go.
Each candidate applies that apply provided us with any reason they feel they would be vested in this position. What distinguishes you from the other candidates?
I hate to dwell on this, but it would be all my experience that I currently have. Township function, fire company. Planning commission, you know, that people would really have to get. I think.
So if you're gonna tell me, what would you say from what you know about this, because you've been on the planning? You heard our answers to the question that Mike asked about, what we see as coming forward. What would you say coming on here would be the biggest challenge, biggest issue you'd like to champion? If you were appointed to this and possibly.
Well, I have a sort of soft spot for all the trails, open space, the interconnection to the trails. Parks. We got more parks, all that stuff. Everybody you talk to, that's what they want. Go out, I can work with some people. the kids, we don't have to go far, the teams can play here, field. We have to swim, we have to race there.
Good. You have any questions for us?
No, sorry.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All you do.
You're the next contestant, Tom.
We know that schedule, hoping that doesn't pose a problem.
Sit here with me, too. Hello, and what's your name? Yeah.
During,
Nice to meet you. Moral support, right? Yeah.
Resume, and other features on my professional experience. Background. So I have a lot of, who have interest in my family background. Why citizenship position. So my family has a pretty significant history of youth involvement. Grandfather was mayor of East, certainly city council. My brother, who I was in partnership with for a number of years, he ran for Congress when I was the campaign manager. And he was unsuccessful, but he leveraged that experience running for judge in Hampton County, Pennsylvania, which I also managed his campaign. Successful in becoming a judge in Hampton County. He's now a federal judge. My wife, my entire time knowing her, has been heavily involved in Kiwanis and volunteer work. I viewed a lot of what I did, supporting the family and dedicating my time to the economics of the family, was helping enable her to provide a lot of that. Many years. And I've always had an interest, but the pressure of work was such that very sweet children active with college. One is now across the mountain, and the other is manager environmental. They're now, so I have a lot more time. I also recently relinquished some of my responsibilities at Dick's with a goal towards starting less than retirement, which frees me up then to do some of the between application. So I also did my own environment, I was doing it up feeling more of the county, I'm having a lot of the open trail. So important. That's just a little bit about me. That's not in resume. I think the resume better shows the experience I've had with working with townships. So that I've mentioned.
Well, we'll continue on the same track as you sat through all of them, so you probably know the questions that are coming for you. I'm not sure I can even be creative enough to rephrase it. Now, one of the things is, I learned this, I was in political science class, politics, about who gets what, where, when, and how, and why. But, you're often having people on differing sides that want to have similar resources allocated to them or issues to address. And it's an education in diffusion. How would you handle, or how have you handled in the past, crowds of people that you need to make a decision in front of and help educate how that decision is being made?
So I would apply the kind of experience I have with 33 years of negotiating contracts, resolving disputes, litigation, and the way I've always approached it. I'm the fastest everywhere I work in terms of resolving, because I come and think that I'm a cooperative problem solver. And in order to be a cooperative problem solver, you need to understand the other side's position. What is it they're really after? And what is their, like, non-selling alternative?
Right.
Right? If you don't come up with something, what are their options? You aren't able to address their underlying concern. Where you go, you're not going to come to this. So being able to compromise and look at the alternatives and synthesize the data to figure out what's driving them, what's motivating, coupled with empathy, right? And which is a big part of understanding where everybody's secret is what's emotionally driving, and having a common approach. Okay. nice to. And I'm very good at being calm and being calm.
One last thing, Kevin, and I didn't ask this for three of the others, and it's not because I'm not pointing out, but they already serve as volunteer positions. So I'm gonna ask you with my additional question. There are 6 people who are looking for one position, so there will only be one person who gets this position particularly, but there are other volunteer opportunities in our community. And with your expressing interest in this, if you were not to be chosen as supervisor, would you be interested and willing to serve on one of our other various volunteer boards, commissions, and authorities?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
I am looking at things that I'm going to be doing as I retirement, but sitting around my house. I see others.
He will be volunteering elsewhere. Is that what you're saying?
Again, thank you, Tom, for your time. Thank you. As well. If you received $1 million grant to use for lower Stafford in any way you want, what would you do with it?
Well, I'll tell you what I want to do. I want to build institutional costs that are ongoing, as I see will ultimately happen in school or 6 to 8. Hire more people. Well, now you created a structure. So I looked at a couple of different things, primarily geared towards one, outreach to improve the websites, I think more input from the community. I think we look at the budget, where are the issues, and can talk about the community form of taxing. Right? It should always be, hey, we got this free money, let's spend that balance back with that. For me, talk about my environment stewardship. I think the trail program is fantastic. And to the extent that there are discrete items that can be funded with it. As you know, $1 million is not a large amount. All the engineering costs doing it. But I think that's some of those.
What do you enjoy the most about living in Lower Stafford Township?
Well, you know, this community, I mean, I've only been here 4 years. I'm not like a lot of the other people that are there for double. I plan on we invested so much in our house. All of our improvements are designed saying, this is where we want us. You know, there's so much more to a small community where you're able to and able to partner. That you know,
Our township allocates funds to certain social service organizations that are unaffiliated with the township, such as the community center, the library, the fire company. Neighboring townships have recently reduced their level of support for these services. How do you feel about allocating township funds to these types of organizations?
well, I don't want to steal Chris's word, but I'm going to steal Chris's word, right? You know, to the extent that the township would have to otherwise be extending current funds for one of those same services, then it's an absolute thing to do. I would also look at the economies of scale, the ends, the perfect example, where being able to fund it in with larger groups so that you aren't bearing the full burden on it is excellent on top of providing the needs. Library, underappreciated, invaluable. And I think they need to be supported. They're key. Well, absolutely.
How do you plan on involving residents in your decision-making process as supervisor?
Well, you heard I had really much like growth website. I think that the letters that go out are a great resource. That's why I'm sitting here today, right? Because that letter invited was informative. Continuing to build on those kind of outreaches that, you know, there's a lot of people that are not going to share meetings. I've been to a few and I see that with the tendencies. I think driving the engagement via the website and those kind of other things.
So the good news with the newsletters, that does not cost the township any fund. It's all paid through the advertising. Yeah, it's really nice. I don't know how many folks know that. You know, Holly spent some time putting the articles together, but in terms of cost, it's paid through the advertising.
Well, as a resident, I can tell you it's a great resource.
Thanks. I've heard nothing but good things about it. I'm sure you guys would say.
Well, I'd like to see you.
There's an opening in the communications.
Yeah, there is. There's a whole list of people.
Which is true, because it's, you know, one of the, you know, it's a two-sided observation, right? People don't come because townships are running efficiently, taxes aren't being raised, we're good stewards with folks' money and land. So they don't come. And then the downside of that is then these other boards and authorities, commissions, they don't always get the kind of the people that we need on. So sometimes this event, while,
That's an excellent question. I understand.
we can do it. Right,
If they were having problems, we have it.
right.
So it's actually a good sign.
You don't want to bring out the torches and pitchforks, but it's good to get people involved to set their to.
So that one more again, I'm grateful to all those who showed interest in filling this vacancy. Each candidate that applied provided us with many reasons they feel they would be best fit for this position. What distinguishes you from the other candidates?
Well, I don't know the other candidates that well to be able to know all of their experience, their skills. I think what I bring is a lot of problem solving skill that is able to gather more from data and look at. I'll give things answer yes or no.
Early, you think yes or no?
All right, very good.
Do you have any questions for us?
I have one step. That's, if you were to receive $1 million.
Good question. I would honestly look around where we can improve as well, see how many things again. I'd love to go purchase student space as well, but I would kind of see where we can improve little things as well. I think that would be the first thing I would look into.
And for the rest of you, what do you consider to be the most difficult ongoing part of it?
You know what, I mean, I would answer that. The frustration of knowing that there are sometimes these easy little connections, like a trail connection or something, where I'm in the construction industry and I look at what I can go build with my resources, and then to look at the process, whether it's, the strings are attached to a grant program, the environmental review that's required for something, and all of the processes were generated for very good reasons. Don't get me wrong, I've been doing this long enough time to know that. But just the frustration of getting that little missing section of sidewalk, and then someone comes back and tells me it's $850,000, and I want to run it from here to somewhere the other end of this room. I mean but if you get frustrated by it, you can't effectively do this job. You then need to figure out how can I overcome it, either around it, through it, over it, or just comply with it, and still get to the result you want to get to. But that's probably my biggest frustration.
I saw how the I saw the price tag.
Yeah. Well, then I look at I'll put sidewalk in for new development for building. I'm like, it doesn't cost me this much a square foot. It's like, but I've been in the government. I started out working for government before I went to the private sector. I understand the process, but it doesn't alleviate the frustration. But I will say I try to take that into my role. And if someone approaches us, and all of us, I think, do this, if there's something we can do at the local level to make sure those same levels of frustration with the rules and regulations we have control over don't limit people from enjoying their property, or the community center from doing something good, or whoever from doing something good. If we can streamline that, that's how I get it.
Yeah, it is like Chris said, very frustrating. So some of the things like when someone proposes a new development and the neighbors don't want it there, but he's allowed to build there, and a lot of times the residents don't understand that. Even though they can sit next to a farm, their whole life might be zoned a certain way, they can build more than single family homes. And that's frustrating me to try to explain to them that there's nothing we can do about it. We could stop it, but then we get sued and they go bankrupt. So you have to more, again, de-escalate thing, try to explain to them what's going on. And there's not much we can do about it before, if it's zoned that way.
So I heard you ask the others that question. I didn't have my own, was bureaucracy, having to deal with the bureaucracy, administrative stuff that.
It helps to have an understanding of that too. And the other thing that we do is we pursue grants that will build these types of projects. But with getting that money, right, our local match and that either state or federal money, it comes encumbered. We have to, right, do certain things to get that money. And by doing that, it doesn't make the project less expensive. It makes it more expensive.
You have to hope that
It outweighs.
more expensive is less the amount that you're getting.
Correct.
Well, without the grant money, generally it would be outside the realm of being able to do it, right? Okay.
At the local.
And that's where the accomplishment, comes in, that we do have, I think, a world-class trail system. And that's because of all the efforts of everybody here and the forerunners back to Ken's father. And yes, and that's where, and I will say that anybody who asks me, when I go around to other stuff, a lot of people like to live in Lower Salford. It's usually the first top three are trails, parks. It's true.
Thank you for your very.
And thanks for coming in.
Thank you. for your-
Good to see you.
Very good. Thanks, Pete. And it still has 11 minutes, so we all talk amongst ourselves. Take a bathroom break. Fill yourself with that wonderful.
The next 10 is resurrection on schedule for 7:30.
Well, I texted him, but it comes in 7:15, so, yeah. Yeah, yeah. What time's your meeting, Ken?
7:30. Yeah, I'm just gonna jump on. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's where I better go.
Mike, how are you?
Hey.
We're running ahead of schedule. I don't know.
Are you
we run a
really?
Very efficient meeting.
All right. You ready?
Ready?
I thought I was gonna have a chance to like sit for a second and catch my breath.
We got just the seat.
Right here, Mike, over there.
Okay. Put you in camera.
That'd be on camera.
I have to sit down and speak.
If you want 2 minutes.
Yeah.
You wanna take a minute, take a minute? I'll use the picture. Give him just, okay. Just, you should, yeah.
Still long.
There you go. Nice to see you. Been a while. Good. It's been a little while. How are you doing?
And how are you? Before, I shared that Indian Valley, so, for the Rotary. Yeah. I saw you up there with your daughter, you're mentoring her. Yes. It's good. I appreciate that. Really. It's nice. Yes, sir.
6 o'clock sharp.
Did you?
Then we did lose one. We had 7 total. And then Frank decided
One dropped
that I
out.
was going to stay involved. Yeah. Sorry.
It's been earlier than next year, so.
Yeah. We're videotaping it tonight, so folks can watch it. But I'll tell you, these interviews, it is a testament to this community. Quality of people. It's really remarkable. It obviously it's, but it's,
I appreciate that.
anyway, all right, last but not least,
There you go. Well, I wanted to thank you all for the opportunity to be here and support you. And throw my 890 and I think it's a hat for this position. First I wanted to congratulate all of you as well as Doug on the job that you've done. It's a job that you're doing. Because the way that I could hear over only 4 years ago now, we were impressed by it. And many things. And I think that these are things that we all should be thankful for. It's not that way everywhere. I appreciate the police force, the trail system, the schools, these are all reasons why my wife and I came here and have great gratitude for this community. And gave our kids a lot better. Our kids are what they are today in large part by the relationships that we've had with people in the community, with the Shiva that they participated in. We love Shiva as an organization. I didn't coach because I wasn't much of a basketball player, but my wife certainly was. And things like scouting and all the different activities that there are for kids and families growing up. At any rate, I think that you guys are all part of that. And that's one of the reasons why, I've come to apply for the position. I think probably the strongest reason. I want to see those things continue in this town and in this township. So I wanted to say that before I talk about my history and from where I've come and why I think that that would be a value to this group of people. First, let me say that I retired from my job, the job that I had for 35 years in the medical device industry in August of 21. It came as kind of a surprise. It wasn't something that I had planned, like I'm going to retire on the state, but I knew it was time. And once I caught my breath after retirement, I realized that I wanted to go into the next thing. And I've always looked at people that have volunteered in the community, people that have done great things. Like I saw probably most of you guys at the Rotary meeting or Square Rotary meeting, and I sat and I listened to those people, the accomplishments that they had. People like D. Schollenberger, love that guy. Things that, and I aspire to do those things in my community. What happened was I had a job, and I was very, very dedicated to my previous job in the industry. I was tasked with being part of a group of people, a small group of salespeople that introduced spine instrumentation to surgeons. Most of those were new technology. And my job was to introduce that, create a relationship with surgeons, and teach them about new technologies, join them in the OR, and give them consultation on how to manage many times difficult situations. It took me a great deal of time. It was nothing for me to spend 12 hours in a tough case in the OR. But I had the opportunity to create some great relationships. I had a very unique opportunity down at Shriners Hospital for Children to participate in the development of a brand new technology that a surgeon asked me to help him with. And that took 10 years. That experience allowed me to interact with the FDA and regulations surrounding the development of an introduction and FDA approval of new products. Talk about regulation. Those people are serious. They are very serious. If you make a mistake, it's not like a civil case. Say, oh, gee, it comes and see you. So it was very, very critical that I understand those regulations and that I follow those regulations to a T, because I was in a very precarious position. But it was all worth it, because after 10 years, we got a brand new device called tethering, the provide tethering, which is a completely different concept to treat kids with idiopathic scoliosis. And I was part of that. My name appears nowhere, but I had friends, the surgeon that I dealt with knows who I am, and I had part in bringing this new technology all over the world to, to kids who need it. In that job, I also mentored some young people coming out of universities that were looking to become representatives in the field, and I created a team of people under me that would cover cases. My job became interacting with surgeons about cases. I would show up at 7 a.m. in the morning at a surgery saying, talk with, surgeons about their cases and what they have going on, and then I go on to the next case. I did that for, a good 25 years. And it took a great deal of time, and I took it very seriously. And I guess one of the attributes that I have is that, you know, if I have a vision about something, I have a goal, it gets done. I take it seriously. One of the things that I have going for me now is that I have time. I have tons of time. I get up in the morning in the first time for 35 years, and I had coffee with my wife almost every morning for for the last year and a half. What a beautiful thing, I've never had to experience that. So I do have a lot of time. I want to hear from you guys. I don't want to sit here and babble. I do want to hear from you guys about what your thoughts are and what could be of value to you in a person that would come and sit on this board with you. So I just if I could get you to talk with me about a little bit about that, I can go on and talk about my real estate experience and real estate development experience, because I believe it's important as well. But I'm going to hear that from you guys. So would you mind chatting with me a little bit?
Not at all, not at all. I mean, so as we mentioned to some of these other folks, it's one aspect to be on the board, because that does have a certain time commitment to it. But there are other groups and committees that we get involved in, where we again volunteer our time to help those folks. So there's the recreational authority, which deals with the golf course, or Kevin takes care of the communications committee. So we have a trail committee. There's a host of different things that from a supervisor standpoint that it's helping. The township has its own share of needs. One of the great aspects of the township is parks and trails. So we do our darndest to continue those kind of the backbone of our community. It's one of the items that drives people here, and rightfully so. I moved my family here because of those great things in our community. So that's from a supervisor's perspective. Those are the things that I take very personally.
I think, what I'm looking like from my viewpoint of, someone to be a supervisor with us is, we don't always all agree on the same things. We don't always, see things through the same lens, but it's mutual respect and it's communication and understanding why people may disagree, and recognizing we disagree on this issue and we'll agree on the next issue, but looking at it from, what's in the best interest of the community, which everybody has a slightly different lens to look at it from, but it doesn't mean any of them are wrong. Again, it's balancing that out. I know I've asked this question to others. One of the biggest challenges of being a supervisor is having those disparate viewpoints that you have to meld together to get to a decision that you think is in the best long-term interest, maybe not the short-term, but long-term interest, and educate people on that. So I'd throw the question back at you. In your experience with, working on a variety of careers, how have you worked with either a larger group or people where there was much disagreement and you had to be in the decision-making realm and reach a decision and still try to educate people in that process?
Let's see. Yeah. So I think it's about communication for sure. I think that I believe that when I thought about coming and talking with you guys, interviewing about this position, I looked at some of those committees, the different committees that people are committed, sitting on communications and recreation. And I realized you're doing different things within the community. And I think that I guess to answer your question directly, it's about communication, but I think that you and I don't have any particular changes that I would want to make to the way you guys are managing. I don't have any, but when I look at it, I don't see anything really in particular that is outwardly wrong with what's going on. I think you guys are doing a great job. How do you look to be part of that and add value as it relates to my experience, particularly in what I just talked about, and also with regard to real estate. I think that, I'm not a person that has been inside this building and looking out and managing all the development that is happening or is going to come. I am a person who's been outside as a developer of a piece of real estate in this geography, working with not only this board but others, Collingdale, Sargent, and Schweinsville, and looking at that code book and looking, having a vision on how I should try to do something and navigating that process from outside. I think that's a value. I think it's a value if you have that experience and you're sitting in this chair where we can have a conversation about, hey, this is the way I see what's going on. And I think that could be a benefit. Now, a long time ago, I started investing in real estate in 2004. I bought a quad building down in Collingdale, and I worked with Earl of Collingdale, doing some development in that down in that building. And then, a few buildings later, I read a couple books, and I really wanted to impact my own community. And I read a book about an author who described, renewing old things, taking old buildings and repurposing them. So I had driven by this nice spring building that I own now, I have since 2010, 100 times. And one day there was this older lady, Pat Belinda, who was getting the mail. And I didn't know her. I'd never seen her before, but I did a U-turn and I came back and said hello and shook her hand and asked her if she would be interested in selling the building. Well, lo and behold, she needed to. She needed to sell it, and that's how I ended up. And I had no idea what I was really buying.
Which we're getting into.
After I bought it, the first weekend, I went to work, late on Friday night, and I went there on Saturday morning, I'll never forget it, walked into one of the back warehouse areas, and there was a pile of trash that was taller than me and as big as this room. My son and my family helped me renovate that. It was a family project. We filled 20, 40 cubic yard dumpsters over that summer. And, from then on, it's been a continual project, just fixing it up. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, I just put windows in that building. Very proud of that. That was an investment, a real investment, and it makes the building look awesome. But it's an example of, it's an example of good development, because the people that rent in there, the tenants in there are people from the community. Like, for example, Electric Sheep Robotics. That's a startup from out in the Bay Area. They just set up a unit. The people that work there are kids from the trade school. They're like local kids. One of the guys they have working there, his name is Chris. Chris is a Penn State MBA engineer, mechanical engineer. It's those things I think have great value for the community. They shop here. Henry and Marie Gonzalez have a business there. They're carpenters. I worked with you guys on that agreement in 21 to more clearly define how that building, the uses that building can have. And I appreciate that very much. That having the ability to do that with you, you can do that. Because Henry and Reed gave them the ability to move into that church space, sort of business there. They have a great business, and he's a wonderful craftsman. He's a carpenter. I mean, if you ever need a table, like a nice table or bench, he's your man. He is a wonderful craftsman. And I just think, that those are the good development projects, and like to see more of that kind of thing. I just think that benefits, benefits the community. But no, I think that, I've worked with large groups of people, in medical device where, you have a grouping of surgeons and you're trying to get something accomplished. That include, all the clinic certain people in hospitals. That I think that, that experience it allows me to.
Michael, again, I thank you for your willingness to volunteer, be willing to serve our community. I have a few questions for you that I've asked the other tenants as well.
Wonderful.
And just be brief with them, just real quick here as well. If you were to receive a $1 million grant to use for lower salary, any way you wanted, what would you do with it? Why?
So I'll tell you, one of the experiences that I had, and my wife actually moved into it, was a school up here. So Relay, you may all know, they housed, adjudicated kids that needed support. And the idea was to house them there, get them out of the environment that they were in. Some of them were horrible. And I think that, and hopefully integrate them into the public school here, as opposed to going back. It unfortunately failed. It failed because it didn't have financing. And the management there was not the greatest. But but I think that that's what I'm trying to do. We, through my wife is a teacher. Been married to her, by the way, for 30 years. She, an educator, she, an administrator. She was actually the director of education up there. And we've had the opportunity to help kids that really need help. I mean, these are kids that don't have any of the benefits that all of our kids have. And in that process, I learned that, it's little things that can make huge difference in kids' lives. We had a girl come visit us that we hadn't seen since she was 16 years old, and she's 40 now. And she came to visit us because she wanted to thank, including my wife, for the guidance that she gave her, because she's successful now. She has children now that are very well, they speak fluent Mandarin. I mean, they're really a good family. And those things happened because, in part, she was able to get out of the environment that she was in, but also that she had, had influence where she could see how people put it. That's it.
As an official, either elected or appointed, you'll have a duty to represent the interest of your constituents. How do you plan on involving residents in your decision-making process as a supervisor?
Well, I've been here for a very long time. I have lots of friends and neighbors here, acquaintances that I've made from many different generations. My kids are 4 or 5 years apart, so I think that I would go to them first, and I would I would go to them and get out in the community in that way and talk with them. Do the events, do all the things where you get an opportunity to talk with people and chat with them about what their wants are as a place, particularly with development in this community.
I just have a few minutes as well. Our township allocates funds to certain social service organizations that are unaffiliated with the township, such as the community center, the library, and the fire company. Neighboring townships have recently reduced their level of support for these services. How do you feel about allocating township funds to these types of organizations?
Well, I think, I'm all about families and kids and being able to support organizations that make kids and families stronger. So, I mean, you do what you can, and I think that money should be allocated in whatever the board believes is the strongest, and what the public believes is the strongest.
What kind of work interests you least as a township supervisor?
I didn't hear you.
So what kind of work would interest you the least as a township supervisor?
I can follow that. You guys do road work?
Not personally.
That's right.
I'm grateful to all those who showed interest in filling this vacancy. Each candidate that applied provided us with many reasons they feel they would be best fit for this position. What distinguishes you from the candidates?
I think, certainly and I don't know all of the other candidates, and I'm sure all the other candidates are very good candidates. But I believe that my experiences, as it relates to, my history in this township and knowing the neighbors, friends and neighbors, understanding the constituency, and my experience with, in medical device where I was dealing with, the types of situations that I talked about. And in particular, my real estate experience, where I've been involved with development, not huge developers, but small business people that a lot of times ride the coattails of big developers. I believe that, my belief and my philosophy on development is it should be good for the people. And I think development is coming here. I don't think there's anything anybody can do to stop the development. It's just what we want it to look like. Do we want it to look like a 309 corridor in Quakertown, or do we want it to look more like Louisville? Should it look like Phoenix? Should it, I think that I could help in that regard. I really do. And that, if I didn't think that experience, that real estate experience, makes me the best candidate, including everything else I've done in my time, then I wouldn't be here. I looked at the minutes of the meetings over the past, it's early in 2022. And I see a lot of, a lot of your time is spent on development, real estate development, down the street here, up on the hill, homes. And I think that that's not going to stop. I think that there's going to be a lot of development. People that want to come and do developments, and I just think I could help in that regard.
Looking at the clock on the wall, last question.
Yeah, I think
Just real
so.
quick, Mike, there are 6 people who are looking for one position.
Yeah.
3 of them are already involved in our boards and commissions. So I've only asked this to 3 people now that are not currently in one of our board positions.
Okay.
If you were not to be the selected one as a supervisor, would you be willing and interested in serving on one of our other volunteer boards and commissions if then your interest needs plenty of each other? That's all that line.
Thanks for the question. So when I retired, as I stated earlier, I'm interested in getting back. I'm interested in getting back in this community and participating in some way. It's been a year and a half now, and I've looked at different things, and I'm thinking, where can I be the most value? I can be of most value there. That's where I can be of most value. And I think that I am a person that wants to get involved. I want to give back. But when I think about, I want to be productive. I want to be really productive. I want you guys, should you select me, to say, I am so glad we selected him because he turned out to be the best. He's the best guy. I really want that. And I think that I would. So even not knowing all the other people, I believe that I belong in that chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
So that pretty much wraps it up for us.
Great. There's no other questions? So I figured I would have you virtually midnight.
No. We can be all think about meeting and get the thank you. And at least from my standpoint, thank you to the 6 of you that are here before us. Thank you. We'll be back in touch very shortly as we have an intention pointing at the February 1st meeting, which is statutorily we have to.
So we're locked into that.
Yeah, now let's turn this meeting off.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, John.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hope everybody stays safe.
Thank you very much.
How you doing? Nice to meet you.
You're